So today we're working on a 9.9, and a lot of questions come up on the internet asking about carb removal on these 9.9s. There's no simple way to do it. First thing that has to happen is this air box has to come off, and then the starter. I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is remove these 4 screws, the air screws. They screw into plastic. Now this back one has a tendency to drop down and behind, so I always take it out by hand. There's 4 screws all together that hold it together. Top comes off. Then there are 2 screws inside that hold it down to the top of the carburetor. And this one's missing the washers. So those 2 screws come out. Then of course there's your lean rich knob. It comes off, and then the air box slides out. Once the air box is off, there's a plate on top that's the retainer for the choke rod. Pay attention, the choke rod, how it comes out. There's 2 sides. It can be flipped either way, so the V sits upward down on top of the choke knob for the carb. Next thing we take off is our starter, and I'll show you how to do that in 2 seconds. Alright, we're back. Now to do this properly, you're going to need a 9/16 wrench. You're going to line up the rope sheave where the pull start is with the starter, and you're going to take the starter bolt off. Now the roll of tape is going to be used keep this sucker together, so we don't want it flying apart. There's a pretty heavy duty spring in here. If it comes out while you're taking this thing apart, it could take your eye out. Here's to get my tape started. So the idea is to grab the entire cup and back this bolt out all the way. And keep in mind this bolt is under pressure as well. It's a fairly long bolt, so it could take a few turns to get it out. And you want to keep the bolt in. There's our starter out. Our bolt's in. Our starter is still in one piece. So then what I do is I wrap this starter in electrical tape a couple times just to make sure it doesn't come apart. That's the same advice I give to people on iBoats, and it works. I've yet to have a starter come off on me. There you go. So starter's out of the way. I'm just going to zoom in here and point out to people sometimes what I talk about as far as the starter bolt goes. Here's your starter bolt right here. That's your thread. Well, there's a lock behind this. The bottom of the cup, there's a notch. This tab has to fit in that lock, so the starter doesn't turn. The cup itself doesn't turn, and people get messed up on that. They don't get that locked in place properly, and of course then everything binds up and nobody's happy. So we're going to be ready to pull our carb off here in just a few seconds. There's in the older machines, this was known as a starter interlock, and if it wasn't in neutral, this would come down and lock against the teeth on the pawl and prevent it from starting. Believe it or not, these springs are no longer available, so you want to make sure that this spring, you keep it close by. So I just took the spring off there. Now nothing's connected anymore. We can get in behind the two carb nuts and take them off. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is take the cam roller off the carb. It just gives us a bit more access to that bottom bolt. So this is a long bolt that goes through this plastic piece. Now they changed this design on the later motors. This motor happens to be a 78, and it uses a smaller style roller as opposed to the newer style, which is a big roller. I've tried both. They'll actually interchange, just in case people out there, for whatever reason it breaks. The carbs are virtually the same up until I think the late 80s, early 90s. So I'm just going to take this off here. A piece of linkage stays inside. I don't know if you can see that nut. It's got a bit of a collar on it. That's to go through the cam roller right here. So that's done. And now we're going to take our carb off. The carb nuts are 7/16. And if you bear with me, once I get this carb off, we're going to go through a rebuild. I'm going to show you what to do. I don't think this has ever been touched, this carb. The owner complained that it had bad gas in it, and it hasn't run right since. And just judging by the spark plugs that came out of it, I tend to agree with them. The top plug that came out was dry. The bottom plug was wet. Just be careful you don't lose this nut down inside. It's very tight quarters to get the carb off. That's the right side. The left side is a little easier to get at. Get a grip onto it. And of course, you've gone out and you've purchased yourself an OMC kit. The OMC kits come with the floats. The Sierra kits do not. Kits are virtually the same. I like the OMC kits because they come with that float. 99% of the time you there, I just dropped it. I'll find it. 99% of the time you get these apart and you find out it's the old style float. And then you question the float. This line's old. It's become hard over time. So there's your carb. There's our nut. So I'm going to fight with this off camera, and next thing you know, I'll have it on the bench. Alright, so we got the carb on the bench. It's a bit sticky, and when the carbs are sticky on the outside, generally it means it's old gas. It's gas that started to varnish. I'm going to pull the 4 nuts off the bottom of the carb. That's going to allow me to remove the carb bowl and see what shape it is inside. But the stickiness is an indicator of a dirty carb. That's the one thing the owner complained about, was old gas. I guess his father put a tank of old gas in the carburetor. So I told him, well, the first thing you should probably do is a carb service on it. So lo and behold, this thing's been sitting for a while. It's got a bunch of garbage down inside the float. That's varnished gas, and if we pour a little bit of fuel out here, that's rust. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. So we've got rust in our fuel. We've got an old style shellac float. That's the old cork floats. Of course, the new ones don't look like this. So I'm gonna almost guarantee that this carburetor's the cause of the gentleman's problems. There's my phone. I'll go through the take apart in 2 seconds.